The current Knesset was dissolved, so the House Committee was not established, and that is the body in the Knesset that would be the one able to answer Netanyahu's request whether or not to grant him immunity. So, as Owen explained, technically, theoretically, this committee could be established before the next election. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. Netanyahu is just buying for time. It looks like it's only after the March 2 election that a new Knesset committee would be established and consider Netanyahu's request. But at the end of the day, it's all about timing, but it's also mostly about majority, because Netanyahu, you have a vote in this Knesset committee, and that vote reflects the majority in the Knesset. At the end of the day, if Netanyahu wants his request to be approved, he needs a majority of MKs, which he doesn't have right now, and which he's also unlikely to have after the March 2 elections, at least according to the polls, because of Victor Lieberman, who has a key position in the balance between the blocs, announced last night that he would not vote, that he would vote against granting the Prime Minister immunity.
Benjamin Netanyahu said on Wednesday night that the people must decide on this issue. Talk us through the issue of ethics and integrity around the request for immunity. Well,
immunity exists in democracies to protect members of parliament and protect their freedom of speech. What the Prime Minister is doing is trying to use parliamentary immunity for things that have nothing to do with him being a parliamentarian. In other words, he has been indicted by the Attorney General about fraud and breach of trust, and that is not something that happened within the framework of his activity as a member of Knesset. So it is very unlikely that the House Committee of the Knesset would approve his request, because, again, he's trying to use a right that exists for every parliamentarian to protect his or her freedom of speech, but he's trying to use that for offenses that have nothing to do with his work as a parliamentarian. By the way, in his request, he's using an argument, which is that, according to him, the Attorney General submitted this, indicted him in bad faith, which is, an argument that the House Committee is unlikely to accept. And even if it did, it would probably be overruled by the Supreme Court, by the High Court of Justice, which is very unlikely to accept this argument from the Prime Minister that the indictment against him was submitted in bad faith by the Attorney General.
And given all of this, talk us through briefly, in terms of the campaigning that's going to happen between now and March, how this immunity issue will impact on the various parties, particularly Likud.
Look, in the Likud already, Netanyahu, in the election for the leadership of the party last week, nearly a third of Likud members voted for his rival, for Gideon Sa'ar. And altogether, only half of Likud members voted in that election. So already Netanyahu, even though Netanyahu did win this election with over a two-third majority, he's already weakened within his own party. And even within the right-wing voters, as Owen mentioned in his report, many right-wing voters buy into Netanyahu's narrative that he's just he's just a victim of a witch hunt, and he's completely, innocent. But many people on the right don't buy into this at all. And that includes many voters who might go for the center or center left or center right and not buy into his theory that he's just a victim, and he might actually lose votes. And as I said, he's leaving the current Knesset with 55 immunity votes, and he's unlikely to get more in the next election.
International relations expert Dr. Emmanuel Navon, as always, thank you so much.